Team Fortress 2 has some of the most bizarre and genuinely creative item unlock methods out of any game, literally ever. Move over in-game store and match completion rewards, because unlocking the boiling point taunt in TF2 requires spending $249 on a ruddy kitchen appliance. And I'm not joking or exaggerating here. Buying this Joule sous vide cooker is literally the only way to unlock this cosmetic dance emote in Valve's Team Fortress Bloody 2 FPS video game. Now, I'm about to say something so controversial, yet so brave. Fortnite. Whatever you might think about Epic's Epic, it's pretty hard to disagree that their modern take on the ultimate showdown of Ultimate Destiny in video game form is anything short of impressive. But let's not forget that the only reason that Fortnite can run so fast today is because Team Fortress 2 walked through mud and waded through rivers of Jurati more than a decade before. The list of items directly collaborating with other franchises in TF2 is humongous, and how you unlock most of those items is also worth mentioning. Sure, it makes sense that pre-ordering the latest Call of Duty might get you a gun skin in the previous Call of Duty, or something like that. And Valve have even done this in the past with TF2 and their other games, like rewards for pre-ordering Portal 2 or Counter-Strike Global Offensive. But the overwhelming majority of TF2 crossover items were awarded for pre-ordering completely separate games from completely separate developers with absolutely no prior relationship with Valve outside of releasing their games on Steam. Naturally, there's blockbuster franchises like Elder Scrolls, Batman, Fallout, Bioshock, and Tomb Raider, but Team Fortress has got a really long history of crossing over with much niche games like Octodad or Bit Trip Runner 2, Jagged Alliance, and even the absolute classic that everyone knows and loves, Fairy Solitaire. We are absolutely normalized to this type of content as Team Fortress fans, but to be serious for a moment, if you take a step back and think about this objectively, before Fortnite, how many other games were actually collaborating this hard with games from entirely unrelated development studios? And then how many of those were actually awarding items for purchases of games from those entirely unrelated development studios? And in the world of wacky unlock methods, TF2 takes this already cool and unusual concept a step even further by awarding items to TF2 players who obtain specific achievements in otherwise unrelated games created by otherwise unrelated studios. If you've ever looked up free hats for TF2, then you're no doubt aware that you can unlock the Spiral Soleil hat in TF2 by getting the achievement for reaching the end of the tutorial area in the game's Spiral Nights. And perhaps even more famous are the multiple collections of items that you can obtain in TF2 by earning the achievements granted from winning poker matches in the Poker Night games. The unlockable items themselves being references to an even further level of otherwise unconnected franchises. Again, we are pretty familiar with this idea as TF2 fans because, of course, who doesn't love free hats? But I just have to stress again how weird and creative the concept is of unlocking items in one game by doing achievements in a completely different game, created and published by a completely different game developer. It's funny to think that sharing items between games was something that was pushed hard by Into Deep NFT bros as an absolute slam dunk selling point and justification for NFTs needing to exist in the first place. But Valve have been doing some variation of this since as early as 2009, with no tree-destroying, scammer-enjoying technology required. So take that, Mr. Mike Shinoda. Wait a second, is that the guy from Linkin Park? What the fuck? Valve's position as the developers of Team Fortress 2 and the almighty rulers of all things PC gaming, or in other words, the developers of Steam, hasn't just limited TF2 to crossovers with other games, but also with Steam, the platform itself. Old-aged boomers like me, and by that I mean anyone who's around the age of 30, will remember that Steam sales used to be much more than just deep discounts and an excuse to infinitely increase your backlog beyond all practicality. But once upon a time, they were massive, elaborate events with meta games, treasure hunts, and even more. For example, one of TF2's most coveted and rarest hats of all time, the Hat of Undeniable Wealth and Respect, was earned in the Great Steam Treasure Hunt of the 2010 Winter Sale. To unlock it, players needed to complete 28 different tasks on Steam, like add a profile picture. But some of these tasks included earning achievements in paid games, like Fallout New Vegas and Civ 5. So not only did you have to be willing to do all 28 different tasks, but you also already had to own multiple paid games or be willing to buy them and do all of this in the 2-week event period. Honestly, looking at it now, I'm surprised that there's even 300 of this item in players' backpacks. So it just goes to show how easily the human mind can be gamified. Like, we're literally talking about gamifying the act of playing games here. It's gamifiception. And perhaps Valve felt similarly surprised by the number of people willing to go to these lengths to play dress-up in their war-themed battle simulator, because by the 2013 winter sale, the unlockable items got even rarer, and they could no longer be obtained intentionally. Instead, anytime that you crafted all 10 of that year's sale-specific trading cards together to create a badge, you got a random reward from a number of participating games on Steam, which of course included Team Fortress 2. And it appears that this time, Valve exercised some sort of control over the rarity of some specific rewards. Because whilst the most common item unlocked via this method has nearly 25,000 in existence, the rarest has just one. That's it. Literally one Randolph the Blood-Nosed Caribou exists, at least one that we know of. You see, all of the items unlocked in this Steam sale event were awarded to your Steam account regardless of what Steam games you actually owned or played. So, never played Path of Exile? That doesn't matter. You might still end up with a turquoise GIMP mask in your backpack. Oh, sorry, Freudian slip. Would you rather stick pins in your eyes than play Dota? Me too! But you still might have found what is definitely not a genuine sharpened volcano fragment in your inventory after this event. Which is all a roundabout way of saying there may very well be another, or even several other, Randolph the Blood-Nosed Caribou hats sitting in TF2 backpacks right now, belonging to people who have simply never even installed or opened the game, and therefore their inventory is currently invisible to tracking websites. And the crazy thing is that the Smithmas Caribou hat from the same event has a current market price of around $500, and there's 200 of those known to exist. Gaben only knows what the price of a more than 100 times rarer item might be if it was available on the open market. And there's a very real possibility that there's a non-TF2 player out there right now with a several $1,000 item in their Team Fortress backpack who doesn't even know that the game exists. Whilst Valve don't put quite as much effort into Steam sale events anymore, they similarly don't put quite as much effort into TF2 as they used to either. The good news is that there's a surprising amount and variety of ways that you can unlock items in TF2 by being a community member. The most obvious of these is taking part in a community event like a tournament, or by donating to a charity event. Not every single community event has an in-game item, mind you, but over the years there has been literally hundreds of events that any TF2 player can freely take part in to unlock a wearable badge or another item commemorating their participation or placement in a competition. The idea of community items actually goes back really far to a wonderfully unique item and circumstance that still exists today: the Lo-Fi Long Wave. This here is a super unique hat representing the TF2 fan community known as Critscast, one of TF2's very early fan podcasts that has covered the game since at least 2008, and it continues to promote and serve the TF2 competitive scene to this day via their YouTube and Twitch. The especially cool thing about the Long Wave, beyond being a completely unique Valve-developed hat, by the way, dedicated to a community of fans, is that the team at Critscast have the power, still, to award this hat to players themselves. It's not triggered by an achievement or automatically unlocked by joining a Steam group or anything like that. It is manually decided and delivered by Critscast themselves. I've covered this hat in a whole dedicated video on this channel before, so go check that out if you want to know more. And I encourage you to go join the awesome Critscast community, because they genuinely are authentic TF2 legends. Are you sick of wikis like this? Seriously, the idea of ever going to a fan wiki for a game gives me that anime head cross thing. And whenever I play a new game and I just want to quickly look something up, I am at complete odds over whether I want to force my way through an early noughties internet pop-up ad and unwanted live stream hellscape, or whether I want to click through 15 different YouTube tutorials trying to find the one guy who will just get to the bloody point. Hey, don't look at me like that. One of the truly remarkable things about Team Fortress 2 that I honestly don't feel is talked about anywhere near enough is the outstanding wiki. It's not only community maintained, but it's Valve paid for. The community wiki is a subdomain of the official Team Fortress website, wiki.teamfortress.com. This fact, along with the long-term dedication and consistency of the community maintainers, means that the Team Fortress Wiki is hands down one of the best game wikis in existence. No ads, ever, of any kind, and an undeniable wealth of content and respect. And as an even further perk of being an officially endorsed wiki, there is another 100% unique in-game hat dedicated to valuable contributors to the site. And this wiki cap even has the ever-coveted Community Sparkle unusual effect on it. And again, this hat is still awarded today, so go ahead, make some valuable contributions to the wiki, and if you keep up the good work, you too might be rewarded with this iconic piece of headwear. If you're not familiar with the Community Sparkle unusual effect that I just mentioned, well, hold on to your wiki caps, because, as the name suggests, this is yet another rewarding the community thing that is pretty unique to Team Fortress 2, because, as you no doubt know, pretty much every item added to TF2 for the last 8+ years was made by a community member. Typically, there are normal ways for scrubs like you or me to earn these items, either unlocked during gameplay or bought on the store, or unboxed from a crate. But a super duper unique way to unlock one of these items in a super duper special quality is to just create the item yourself. Easier said than done, of course. I don't know how many games crowdsource their content, and I doubt many do it even remotely close to the scale that Team Fortress currently does. But if you personally create an item that Valve select to get added to the game, you get a one-of-a-kind Community Sparkle unusual effect version of that item to allow you to proudly say to the entire world of TF2, I made this. And honestly, that's pretty damn cool if you ask me. And whilst Valve are out there crowdsourcing content, they're also crowdsourcing bug fixes. Now, to be fair, this is a pretty common practice in the tech industry known as bug bounties. Basically, companies will reward people who report serious bugs privately so that they can be fixed before they are found by less savory individuals and exploited instead. Oftentimes, this will be a monetary reward, but we are, of course, simple hat-loving gamers, so I'd be darned if I find a bug and get any of that stupid, pointless trash normies refer to as money or cash. And, like the gamers that they are, Valve of course know this too, and they give us what we really want. Hats. There's a completely unique hat called the Finder's Fee, which exists only as a reward for people who find and report particularly serious bugs directly to Valve. Before the Finder's Fee was added to the game, Valve even used to give bug finders any hat and effect combination that they wanted, leading to players of course requesting literally impossible hats, like an unusual Cheater's Lament, for example. But why is it impossible for a Cheater's Lament to be unusual? Because it is, you guessed it, another weird and wonderful unlock method. The story behind this one is truly wild, because the Cheater's Lament was a reward from Valve given to players for specifically not cheating. That's right. Cheating was once so widespread in the game that it was easier for Valve to simply reward those who were not cheating than it was for them to punish those who were. Maybe some of you think that sounds a lot like Team Fortress 2 from just a year or so ago, but let me clarify here. This particular form of cheating we're talking about is idling to get free item drops, which can of course then be traded or sold. Back in 2009, this wasn't just a case of people leaving the game open when they went for dinner, or even leaving it running overnight, but savvy, tech-literate gamers found a way to trick the game into thinking it was open, even though it wasn't. And back then, the game's item drop system worked completely differently. There was no limit at all to how many drops you could potentially get in a single week, like there are today, ultimately resulting in thousands of players ending up with thousands of items in their backpacks that they, for lack of a better expression, didn't deserve. But instead of punishing the cheaters, Valve decided to reward everyone who didn't use these tricks to get free items with a free item, the aforementioned Cheater's Lament. A rather fitting, unique halo to represent their good-natured decision to not cheat in this way, or of course their ignorance at not even knowing there was anything going on in the first place. And I will always live in regret that I started playing TF2 just 2 months after this event, missing out on the opportunity to own my own copy of this wonderfully weird piece of TF2 history. Cheating and special unlock methods in TF2. Name a more iconic duo. I'd be a fool of a tool if I didn't mention one of the game's rarest and most controversial items, the Golden Wrench. There's a long old story surrounding this item that definitely deserved its own video, which is why I already made one a few years ago, which I'll link on screen and in the description. But long story short, this inaugural item made out of Australium, with no relation to the MVM Australian weapons, was unlockable during an event period randomly by crafting something else. As in, anytime that you crafted anything using TF2's inbuilt crafting feature, there was a random chance that you would also get the golden wrench along with whatever you were actually crafting. And once 100 were created, that was it. The full supply of golden wrenches was 100 for the entire player base of all of TF2, making their ownership, bearing in mind the fact that there was absolutely no way to intentionally earn one, an extremely valuable TF2 status symbol. But you see, here's the thing. It turns out there was a way to intentionally earn one after all. Either by leak or by exploit, someone worked out the specific timing required to guarantee crafting one of the 100 limited golden wrenches, and like a drunken fool, they started spreading this information in public servers, which of course meant that it didn't stay secret for long, resulting in this person earning the ever so rare and coveted manual VAC ban. The unlocking of the manual VAC ban, of course, is not the part pertinent to this video, but the pseudo-random unlock of a 1 of 100 item whilst doing an otherwise completely unrelated in-game activity is. Cheating and special unlock methods in TF2. Name a more iconic duo. Wait a second, didn't I? You've probably seen someone in TF2 wearing this hat, the frontline field recorder. Heck, given that a little over 8% of all of TF2 players have done the achievement to earn it, a percentage, by the way, which is factoring in all people who have ever opened the game just one time and never again, and you are now here choosing to watch a very long and rambling video about random nuggets of TF2 trivia from the game's history, meaning that you're already an above-average TF2 fan, there's a reasonable chance that you have this hat. And there's also a reasonable chance that you didn't get it the proper way. The proper way, of course, being the reason that it's right here, right now, in this very video. Get 1,000 views on a YouTube video created and uploaded using the in-game replay editor. This is honestly a very cool thing for Valve to do, and a great idea from Valve to promote the use of their then brand new replay tool, all the way back in 2011. And I can't imagine the list of games, even today, automatically awarding in-game rewards based on a specific number of YouTube views is a particularly long one. But not only is 1,000 views actually a reasonably difficult goal for a person who might not have any pre-existing YouTube presence to reach, but the code inside TF2 linking up with YouTube's code became outdated 10 years ago at this point, and it simply no longer works, thus making this hat impossible to obtain even if you were able to make a video with the in-game replay editor and then go on to get 1,000 views on it. But you've still got the hat anyway, haven't you, you little rascal? Up top, I mentioned the Joule sous vide cooker. Again, just to stress that buying a couple $100 electric cooking device is the only way to unlock this TF2 taunt. Whilst not quite as bizarre as that example, Team Fortress also has plenty of other items where the only way to unlock them is buying a specific physical product. This category includes hats like the Grandmaster, available only by purchasing the official TF2 chess set, and one of my personal favorite promo items, Full Stop. You see this chess piece hologram on top? It actually updates in real time, based on the wearer's current kill streak. Not only a pretty darn cool mechanic on its own, but it was even added to the game before regular kill streak kits were. The first in-game acknowledged kill streak that any TF2 player ever received was wearing this fancy pants hat that came with a physical chess set. Or maybe the physical chess set came with this fancy pants hat, depending on your perspective. This category also includes the Friends Forever Companion Square badge, which was only available by purchasing this physical figurine, which itself was only available at a single 3-day convention back in 2012. The figure is a reskinned version of a 3A Toys model based on Ashley Wood's World War Robot franchise. Once again showing that TF2's choice of crossovers are absolutely anything but cash grabs, and represent whatever the heck an individual Valve employee happened to be into at the time. These days, a lot of Valve employees appear to be really into VR. And they were also really into VR over 13 years ago, when the whole concept of a consumer VR headset was just a pipe dream that existed only in the brain of a man who, these days, is weirdly into providing AI-powered military drones to the US Department of Defense. But that's a rabbit hole I am really not interested in going down. Anyway, this little pipe dreamer's original creation was the Oculus Rift, the absolute pioneer of affordable at-home VR technology. When this revolutionary technology was still pre-release, TF2's developers hopped on board and actually developed a VR mode for Team Fortress 2 in 2013, making it one of the first ever publicly playable VR games. And Valve also created this in-game item, the TF2 VRH, as a promo for anyone out there who bought the then still only development kit version of the IRL Oculus. On the off chance you see one of the only 1,300 owners of this item actually wearing it in-game, and the goggles appear to be glowing, that means the person is actually playing TF2 in VR mode right now. I personally own the much more modern Valve Index, so if you'd like to see a video where I try and use it in TF2's VR mode today, assuming that it still even works, just let me know and I will boldly get very, very motion sick for your entertainment. And it's not just VR. In fact, TF2 has almost always been Valve's favourite place to test radical new concepts on the gaming community. You know, just small little ideas that will probably never go anywhere, like would gamers want to buy cosmetic items for their characters in an otherwise wall-based shooting game? Or would gamers actually pay to open a loot box of randomized unknown contents in an otherwise wall-based shooting game? One of the slightly less industry-changing ideas that they tried over the years was porting TF2 to both macOS and Linux, and they rewarded players with the earbuds and the Tux in-game items respectively, for those who played TF2 on the relevant operating system during the short promotional windows. No pun intended. These ports were released in 2010 and 2013, meaning that TF2 has been a multi-operating system game for nearly 16 years. Statistically speaking, longer than many of you watching right now have been alive. Even these days, very few multiplayer games have support on macOS, and even fewer on Linux. And let's not forget, the reason that we're even talking about these ports is because playing on those operating systems specifically actually earned you something special in-game, making this already extremely niche mechanic all the more significant. But there's actually an unlock method out there even more niche than playing a niche port of a niche game on a niche operating system during a promotional niche over 15 years ago. Even more niche than buying a tech startup's high-tech cooking appliance. Even more niche than quiche on a beach swimming with some fish. Yeah, that sounded a lot better in my head. But if you were Notch, the legendary solo creator of the even more legendary video game Minecraft, your head would be available to wear in the slightly less so but still also legendary video game Team Fortress 2. And what makes this so special and a reason to be included in this video is its unlock method, of course, which is be Notch, the legendary solo creator of the even more legendary video game Minecraft. The story goes something like this. Notch, an actual TF2 enjoyer, one day tweeted out his disappointment that no one believed him in-game that he really was who he said he was. Some Valve developers saw this, so as mutual fans of his work, whipped up this completely bespoke hat for him and delivered it directly to him and him only. The one and only top notch of any quality, any variety at all, is sitting in the real-world Notch's Team Fortress backpack, not a single place else. I talked earlier about the one-of-a-kind unusual Cheater's Lament that is out in the wild. But did you know that there's a whole bunch of other, literally impossible unusuals that somehow actually exist? Check out this video linked on screen right now to learn all about the equally crazy stories behind each of those. And of course, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, be sure to subscribe so you can be notified when the next TF2 trivia video is released. Thanks, and have fun.